Jared Bellman with AllChoice Insurance, back again to talk about the decision-making process. You can see here across the top, I have a 6-step decision-making process that we're gonna walk through AllChoice's sales process and how we went from identifying the problem to hopefully someday selecting our best alternative. Identifying the problem, this is fun part, right? So this is where you're gonna reach out and get as much information and find out where the problems are. You gotta be humble when you do this one though. You're gonna reach out to your team and you're gonna ask everybody about the sales process. You want all their feedback about where any road bump or brick wall or any issue they've had. You wanna reach out to current clients that have been through your sales process and maybe even prospects that are going through it if you have a good relationship with them. Get that feedback from them on how they feel about the current sales process. You want to go to your industry. Your industry, there's people that have already addressed this, have already talked about this. Now that's not necessarily exactly what's going on in your sales process, in your business, but they may have some insights that you don't see that you may have blinders to. And then we always go outside our industry because we want to know what other people are doing. In the insurance industry, we've been around a long time. There's a lot of people doing a lot of great things, but sometimes getting out into other industries helps us evaluate and see our problems in a different light, and that's very helpful in what we do. Once we identify all those problems, we want to figure out the decision criteria. So really what that is the things that are important. So the impact it'll have on sales is important to us. The speed at which our team can get through that process is another criteria that we want to address. We want to make sure that we are having a good customer experience. Customer experience is very important to us, and so sales, of course, we're in business, so we want to make sure that's good. Speed kind of plays into that, customer service, and then really eliminating unnecessary work. That's another one in our sales process that was really important to us. So we take all these things and from what our problem is, we then establish the criteria that we want to impact the most. Then we weigh those. So for us, customer experience was number one. How it impacts sales is important, but probably not the number one thing that we're going to worry about in our sales process. Eliminating teamwork, we really felt would impact speed also. So you just kind of take your decision-making criteria and figure out what's most important to you, because that's what you want to impact initially, what you want to focus on. Obviously, you don't want to forget sales. That's definitely important, but you want to make sure that you know what's most important so that you spend more time on that. Then we move into the actual processing of things. So we're going to generate alternatives. And we previously talked about different models, and so when we come to these alternatives, we want to make a choice. So this is actual action. So let's choose a new color here. So we're going to have, let's say we say, emails are going to be this way, or we could just say communication is going to be this way in the sales process. The steps are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. We go from initial introduction, we go to gathering information, and you decide what those steps are. And each business is going to have their own alternatives. But what we want to do is, in these steps, we want to maybe, say we have 1, 2, but then maybe we need to add 2A before we go to 3, then we go to 4, and maybe, the communication types impact each one differently. So you're going to get a big variation here where 1 is the initial impact. So maybe you don't want to be using emails and text. You want to make sure you're using the phone or direct contact with individuals. So you have all different alternatives. Now you make a choice. Once you make a choice on how you're moving forward, you can then evaluate. And we spend a lot of time here. And really, we come back to evaluation all the time. We're going to go back to identifying the problem, but ask the question a little different. Instead of how is the current one working, it's how is the new one working, which I guess is now our current one. And we want to evaluate that. We do that in a lot of ways. So we obviously speak to all those people again and see where we're at. But now that we have a process, we can use the data. So how many people clicked on an email and opened it? How many people responded to the call of action in that email? How many people answered the phone when we called? How many times when we made a phone call were we able to log that a action was taken after that call? How long was each prospect in each step? That's all things that we evaluate. And there are so much data you can do, which goes back to establishing your decision criteria. We want to track the things with the data that we want to impact. So customer experience, that's why we go back and talk. Customer experience is a hard one because it's a feeling, but speed is not. Speed is speed, time. So how long is each person in each thing? How long does it take to move through the process? Eliminating work, that's easy. How many tasks is each step taking for each person touching this prospect? And in sales, that's a great one. Usually comes at the end of this process, but we want to know how much revenue is increasing, how much net profit is increasing off of this, how much are we saving by eliminating time. So sales and revenue go hand in hand in that. And then as we evaluate that, we go back to generating alternatives, all while looking at the decision-making criteria and how we weighted it to make sure that when we generate a different alternative, we're taking the one that's weighted the most and impacting that with the most effort. Selecting the best alternative, I can tell you at AllChoice, we may never get there. And we're kind of proud of that because it means we're always evaluating alternatives, that we're not stuck in this is the best way to do it. I don't know if there ever will be a best way. Maybe there's a best way today that it can be done, but with technology and tools and continued improvements of how to track data, we hope that we can always be continuing on improving our customer experience, impacting sales, speed, eliminating work for our team, making an overall sales process better. Thank you so much for paying attention on us establishing the decision-making process and how it impacts AllChoice Insurance. Thank you. Have a great day.